Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Sematary Club. Hi guys, we are wrapping up dinner today. We left it where Billy was going to step into the camp and confront Lemke. Everyone kind of stares at Billy when he gets there, and no one is surprised, but everyone is also kind of stunned by his appearance. So they knew what was up, it's just seeing it and knowing are two different things. So everyone's kind of just looking at him, and Billy is like, I want to talk to Lemke right now. So they get him out of bed, and he and Billy have this really good interaction. Lemke says, I know what your wife was doing, which is interesting because maybe he just didn't have the opportunity to touch her and curse her, but it is interesting that he let that go. And Billy is saying, I am suffering, my family is suffering, my daughter is suffering, and you are doing this on behalf of your daughter who I hit and killed, so think of my daughter, And he says, take off the curse. And they get into an argument, and Lemke's like, no, I'm not taking it off. Screw you. Go home, And Billy is like, fine, I curse you. I'm gonna curse you. And everyone kind of laughs at it, but then he gets shot by Gina, the young girl. And she is just filled with such hate and rage. And she shoots him with her slingshot. She has little ball bearings that she uses in her act, and she hits targets with it. She gets him right through the hand. So right through the palm, he can see through his palm. He can hold his hand up, there's a large hole, and he can look through it. It is that precise, and it went clean through. So he starts, using this blood from his hand, and he's throwing a curse on Lemke and his family and friends. And everyone is kind of like, well, he's crazy. Maybe, they don't seem to think that it's out of the realm of possibility. So Billy is thrown out of camp. He is tossed bodily out, and he makes it back to the hotel, and he is in a ton of pain. He kind of was in shock before, and probably the adrenaline from the confrontation, all that stuff. He didn't really feel the wound, but now it has caught up to him, and he is just suffering. He is so thin. His heart is getting really weak. He calls Janelli and says, hey, I need you to send a doctor or something through FedEx, some medication, something. I am in serious pain. And Janelli's like, yeah, I'll do that. And he sends a doctor over. The doctor arrives, and the doctor is like, you need to eat. And he's like, what is wrong with you? You need to eat. You are so thin. I can't even give you proper medication. I really should be giving you a baby aspirin because you cannot handle any hard painkiller. It will kill you. You will die. So Billy's like, whatever, just give me what you can. So he gives him, I don't remember what he gives him, but something very weak. And he tells him to take a portion of it. And then if he, is still in pain hours later, to take another bit of it, but not more. And he leaves, and he's like, you really have to eat. And Billy's like, yeah, whatever. Then Billy falls asleep, and Janelli wakes him up. He has come. He has arrived. He didn't have to, but Billy is so touched, and Janelli is so warm and friendly, and he's shocked by Billy's appearance, but he's like, I'm going to stay and listen to this entire story. I love the detail that Stephen King puts in here, that Billy recounts the whole story, and at the end of it, quote, when he was done, there were 4 camel butts in the ashtray, page 213. So, I don't know how long it takes to smoke 4 cigarettes, but it does indicate a measure of time, which I appreciate, and I feel like back then, more people would probably understand how long smoking 4 cigarettes would take, but I can assume, it's a good chunk of time. So, Janelli is actually really excited to work on the curse that Billy put on Lemke. And he is, kind of like a little he's like Toad with the crazy wild eyes, mania, all that stuff. He is just raring to go. This has revitalized him, made him seem super youthful. He goes away, he makes some phone calls, takes a walk, gets his head clear, starts thinking about his method. Like I've said before, I just love Janelli. Quote, Janelli was his friend. Janelli was a courtly, if not exactly grammatical man who called him William instead of Bill or Billy. He was also a very large, very proficient hunting dog, which had just slipped its chain. Page 219. Janelli agrees to not hurt anyone. He's going to scare everyone. That is the plan. He's going to scare Lemke enough to make him take the curse off. And he promises Billy that no one will be hurt. And Billy's like, fine, do what you gotta do. I'm dying here. He's down to like 118 pounds, you know, and he's like, just fix it for me, but don't hurt people. Janelli also found out that Heidi and Dr. Houston have signed committal papers. So if Billy steps across the state line back into, I think it's Connecticut where he lives, he'll be taken in for psych evaluation and treatment. And he is furious with Heidi. The fact that she would actually sign the papers. Like, talking about it is one thing. Thinking that maybe she had signed them is another thing also. But just knowing that she signed them, he's livid. So Janelli actually is owed some favors from Kirk Penchley. He was the guy who was helping Billy, sending him photos, tracking down Lemke, and he has also been reporting back to Heidi now. And so Janelli is like, I need a week, give them some, not so true information, kind of throw them off the track. So we find out what happens with Janelli. He goes and he poisons the pit bulls. And the pit bulls are kept for dog fights. So like a Michael Vick type deal is going on where these dogs will fight. And so during the day they're drugged and they're kept quiet, sedated, not wanting them to fight amongst themselves, and then they'll wake them up and get them ready when it's actually time to fight, and then money is exchanged, gambling, all that stuff, and dogs die. It's a terrible thing, and Janelli ends up poisoning all of them, which he says is better, it's a better life for them, a better end to their life to eat poisoned steak than to get ripped up and killed through fighting, which probably. So then he's hired someone to work with him, and that guy gets shot and killed because he was a little careless. He got caught, he gets killed, and Janelli has to bury him because he's in the rental car that Janelli had. Janelli has to get the car keys out of his pocket because he forgot them. So he has to unbury him, grab the keys, bury the guy back up. Then later on, he goes back to the camp and he shoots it up. He ties up two of the guards who are standing watch, and he shoots up the camp and then leaves. Doesn't hurt anyone, he just wants to scare everyone. And so then he leaves, and there's just a whole bunch of chaos, and he passes one of the guards and says, hey, tell the old man, take the curse off. And that, the guy's like, he's not going to. He won't take it off. He'll never take it off. And Janelli is like, make him do it. Give him a choice. So then Janelli rents another car, and he has a badge, an FBI badge, and he strolls into the camp, pretends he's an FBI agent, and starts questioning people. And his goal is to get Gina, the great-great-granddaughter, and get her away from everyone, scare her, and use her to get Lemke to take his curse off. So he uses the hope of getting Billy, because he says, there was gunfire here the other night. We think we know who is responsible for it. We think Billy is the one who hired someone to do this. So will you come identify some photos of him so I can be sure? She follows him into the woods. They head to his car, and he's like, ha, gotcha. It's a very tense scene because she just is filled with so much hate. She is just raring to go. She tries scratching at Janelli. She ends up making some deep cuts in his face. He says, quote, He cursed you. I was the curse. Page 265. And that is so true. Janelli is the curse. It's not a supernatural curse. It's the curse of the mobster from upstate New York or wherever he's from. And he will not relent. He is going to make these people pay, especially if Billy dies. So he tells Gina to have her grandfather take this curse off, and then he says, I love this because it's so detailed and methodical. Quote, "You're going to call this number by midnight tonight and tell me what the old man says. If you need to hear back from me, you call that number again 2 hours later. You can pick up your message, if there is one, and that's it. One way or another, the door is going to be closed. No one at that number is going to know what the fuck you were talking about after 2 o'clock tomorrow morning." Page 265. So he gives her the phone number to a phone booth that he kind of uses as his office in a way. So all of this results in a meeting between Billy and Lemke. So Janelli was successful. He's going to get the two of them together. They're going to talk about this. And Billy asks Janelli if he did any of this for him. Quote, "Does it matter, William?" Page 272. So Janelli is kind of carried away by all this. He is enjoying himself. He's having a good time. He is finding amusement in this whole thing. So Billy sits with Lemke in a park. Janelli is kind of watching from a distance. And there's a pie, a strawberry pie that Lemke has. And he cuts it open and it's pulsating and it's filled with chunks of strawberry. It just sounds disgusting. It does not sound like anything that you'd want to eat. And basically, Billy has to bleed into this pie. So he uses the wound that he got from Gina, and he bleeds into the pie, and Lemke says some stuff, and he seals the pie back up, and you can't even tell that it was sliced. And it's warm, it stays warm, pulsates. It's like a living thing. Because Lemke says that he cannot just take away the curse. It's impossible. It has to be transferred. So someone has to pay. And Billy has to get someone to eat this pie. Because he will be kind of like a sin eater, you know. The new person is going to ingest the sin. And Lemke says, quote, "Be careful who eats the meal that was meant for you." Page 283. And then, sadly, Janelli has been killed. He is supposed to be waiting in the car for Billy. When Billy gets there, all he sees is Janelli's hand, severed hand, clutching steel ball bearings. So Gina obviously got to him and killed him, which is disappointing because I don't think Janelli would be that easily taken, especially after all he's been through. He's quite adept. He knows what's up, but it makes for a good story. So Janelli is dead. We find out later that his body turns up and it's presumed to be a gangland hit. And, it was upsetting to Billy. He ends up wrapping the hand in a map and he throws it out when he goes through the drive-thru of McDonald's because now he has started to eat and started gaining weight because as soon as the pie thing happened, the curse was off of him. Billy gives the pie to Heidi. Linda is away. She's staying with someone through this whole ordeal, and he had even talked to her on the phone and said, give me a little time before you come home. And he thought everything was fine. Gets home, he and Heidi talk, and he's just kind of relishing the idea of giving her this pie. And he goes up to bed. She says that she's going to have a slice and then come up. He falls asleep because he's exhausted. He wakes up in the morning and sees that Linda has returned in the night, and she actually ate some pie with Heidi. They ate pie in the kitchen and made up because they were fighting over Billy, and they both now are going to die. So Billy kind of resigns himself. He cuts himself some pie and he eats it. So it's all for naught. It's such a sad ending. Like I said, I enjoy that this seems to be more of a melding of Stephen King, Richard Bachman. You got the supernatural Stephen King stuff and the kind of gritty gritty stuff from Richard Bachman, but it's meshed together, and I think it goes well, and it's just such a good book. Such a good book. Janelle's story is one of my favorite parts of this entire book. It's so fascinating, and it just plays out like a movie. You could see it in your head. It's just really, really good. And I think I also would have liked to see another version of this told from Lemke. So his version of the whole thing could have been a very interesting way to go. Have a spooky day.